I'd like to kick off and just do some introductions first. My name is John Power. I am Chief Product Officer within Mock, and I'd like to introduce our guest as well, Moni.
Thanks, John. Good morning to you, good afternoon to you. Hello, everyone. My name is Moni Panchavadi. I'm Global Head of Partner Solutions for Travel and Hospitality within AWS, coming to you from my home office here in Atlanta, Georgia. In my current role at AWS, I work with partners like Amark to build industry solutions for travel and hospitality customers of AWS. I've been 3-year Amazonian, but 20 plus years in the industry. I'm looking forward to our conversations today, John.
Perfect, thank you. So today we're going to cover a couple of different areas themselves, and we're going to talk about understanding AI containment strategies within, as I said, the travel and hospitality, specifically within call centers themselves. We're also going to have a conversation around those key strategies themselves and how to create success from them. And then we're going to talk a little bit around a case study and the actual metrics, which is the nice juicy bits around statistics and facts. And then we're going to look at some future trends in relation to AI around that. So to kick off with some stats, when I was researching this, I started to look at some of the Gartner reports that were produced recently, and some headline stats popped out at me, and I'm only going to give you 3 of them. The first one is around travel and hospitality execs have increased their AI and ML budgets from 24 into 2025 by 30%. So there's a lot of cash going this direction. And in 2024, 63% of travel and hospitality executives believed AI or ML is very important. And then the third one is around the fact that 67% of travel and hospitality executives are targeting AI capabilities in 2 areas, customer service and in communications. Okay, so let's really kick off at a very high level definition of it. What do we actually mean when we say AI containment strategies? Well, we're focusing here on the ability for an AI powered call center, in this case, to be able to automate and handle a lot of the customer interactions, with only very, very high level interactions being handed over to humans, okay? But I would like to basically talk a little bit about how humans in the scenarios that we've been dealing with are actually making the end decision, right? So an AI might do, or an AI knowledge assist bot might actually do the trawling for information and pass back answers, with a human then actually validating that and sending it out until a level of accuracy is actually achieved, okay? And why use AI in a call center? Customer experience is huge at the moment, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on in relation to the specific CSAT scores that we're actually seeing and competitive advantage. 12 months ago, I would have said this was a huge competitive advantage. Now I say it's necessary, okay, to do so. And then the third why is around cost optimization. That's the obvious one. We'll talk a little bit about how, in other words, how many of those percentage of interactions should be automated over what period of time, and how to go about it, okay, in relation to how should you start on this AI roadmap within call centers. And Moni, I'm going to throw it over to you. Give me your definition and AWS's definition around this particular area.
Yeah, John, your stats, those are awesome. There is no doubt that there is a lot of work going to happen in this space. Let me just start with that. So your question is, what is AI containment in travel and hospitality call center? So AI containment for me in a travel and hospitality perspective is full automation of simpler tasks for that's coming to a call center with the power of AI. That's what it means to me. Why do we do this? To improve customer satisfaction, as you mentioned, to improve customer satisfaction and improve resolution time. So let me explain this in a different way. When a customer, that's a traveler or a guest, calls in a call center with a simpler task, it can be a frequently asked questions, it can be a simpler travel booking or a day of travel changes. How can we use the power of AI to automate that and give them a better customer experience rather than holding them online for 15-20 minutes, and solve that immediately and improve customer satisfaction? That's what AI containment means to me for travel and hospitality.
Perfect, perfect. And certainly around those benefits, right? We talk about the cost savings, the operational efficiency, and customer experience. But before we jump into that, I want to have some hard truths here. Is that nobody ever talks about the training that you need to give to the LLM itself, and the effort that needs to be put in place to make sure that the accuracy of these answers is correct, and the sort of percentages that you should be looking to get by. Because if you don't put in the hard work up front in relation to training the model, you're going to get incorrect answers, and it's just going to frustrate the customers even more so. Okay. But certainly from a benefit side of things, from a call center side, we've seen increases of, or should I say, decreases of about 49% in relation to reduced average handling time. Huge if you're getting charged per minute, right? Or calls that are coming into a call center. Recently, a bit of work we saw and that we did had a significant saving in the euros amount per minute of savings in relation to this particular area. 70% of chatbots were answering queries in relation to this, and only 30% were getting through to the agents, right? The CSAT one I talked about earlier, which was really impressive, that increased by 27% using AI versus not using AI, right? And then a 95% improvement in first call resolution. Again, if we look at first call resolution, you don't have second calls. And there's that additional cost associated to second and third and fourth calls, and just becomes incredibly inefficient, right? Again, Moni, I'm gonna double back to you here in relation to your own experience around potentially CSAT or reduction in customer complaints that you've seen with your own customers within AWS.
Yeah, those are staggering stats, John. Thank you for bringing those up. They are relevant for our industry. So why travel and hospitality companies care about this, right? So the travel and hospitality companies care deeply about loyalty of the customers and net promoter score. So how can we maintain loyalty or build loyalty and increase the net promoter score? It is by providing a better customer experience and delight the customer when they have a need. So that's why, as I said before, we don't want customer on the call for 15, 20 minutes. Get those answers answered correctly and as fast as possible, so can get on their day and get other things done. So that's important for customer from a customer experience perspective for travel and hospitality customers. So the AI containment, the automation can improve the customer experience. So that's one of the major driver for our industry for going automation in call centers. As you mentioned, there is also a cost saving aspect of it. So there was a McKinsey study that showed that 1% point improvement in automation of call center interactions can save $2 to $3 million for enterprises on a yearly basis. That's huge savings. So it's a double winner, because you improve the customer satisfaction and you reduce the cost. How can we go along with that, right? Then there's another aspect I also want to bring up. So Gartner projects that the AI automation within call centers will increase 5 times and reach 10% by 2026. So that means the industry is going this way and nobody wants to be left behind. So that will be another driver.
It's interesting. Just as you were speaking there, there's 2 examples that popped out at me, and this one was in a particular airline, and it was a particular problem one where, believe it or not, a question was asked: how do I transport a zoological animal on your airline, right? And they said in the past, the hand went up, the supervisor came over, someone had to ask somebody who was working there 10 years what the answer was. 45 minutes later, it gets answered. In that particular piece of work, we had an AI knowledge assist that was able to scrape the data of the process and how you do it, produce the form that needed to be filled out, and then automatically emailed it out to the particular passenger asking about this question within 4 minutes. Like, that was the first one. I think a little bit off peak as well on this, or off piste, is we're now getting queries around how can we use AI outside of call center communications, customer service. How do we use it in software development to improve or automate testing, or CI/CD pipelines. So it's coming out across the board within companies. But
Agreed.
Again, some of the challenges that we've faced in relation to the implementation of it within call centers and travel and hospitality, resistance from change was a big one for us. And the way around that is providing training and clear communication about AI supports, not replaces, okay, employees. Another one was integration with legacy systems. We see this everywhere, Moni, right? That's a huge issue. The use of APIs, middleware to bridge API tooling. Another one was data privacy and compliance. Absolutely, right? We have to ensure that we've got strict data governance around this. Inaccurate or biased API responses is a big issue, and you need to continually train. That's back to the stuff I was talking about earlier. And then the last one is that high initial investment costs, and we'll talk a little bit about how you could bridge that. Okay, could you talk a little bit about the technical difficulties, Moni, that you've experienced?
John, you address a lot of the biggest challenges, but I will give you a different perspective, a different angle to this. So when a traveler or a guest call a call center, although they would like to get on with their life and get the problem solved immediately, they still prefer to a human, real human. They like that. So making this AI agent sound real and sound human-like is one big challenge. And fortunately, this AI agents and the LLMs and the voice AI have become really good. They sound authentic. They can manage a lot of accents. They can talk in many different languages. So we are doing really well. And it's hard to recognize between a bot and a real human these days. So I will giving that real human-like experience to the caller is a big challenge. I will give you, you asked about challenge, but it somehow turns into some of the benefits too. There are more benefits than challenges. We have to admit that. I'll give you anecdotally, I heard from one of our startup founder recently that sometimes humans fail to recognize the sentiments in the caller because we are multitasking. We fail to catch those sentiments and respond sympathetically to the caller. But AI agent never fail that. They catch these sentiments. One of the studies showed that the AI agents are 85% accurate in identifying the sentiments and responding accurately. So sometimes human agent, although our callers prefer talking to a human agent, the human agent fails to identify that sentiments and respond sympathetically. By AI agents almost all the time catch that and respond sympathetically.
Yeah, and specifically around some of those tooling in AWS, right? What have you seen as a pattern, Moni?
Yeah, so when I look at this AI containment in call centers, you touched on this a little bit. I see four different use cases. One is full automation of simple cases that come to the call center. That means a simple booking request, a frequently asked question. That's fully automated by an AI agent. That's one use case. Another one is proactive reach out. So for example, a flight is delayed. That means the hotel booking need to be adjusted. We know the guest is going to call us very soon. So don't wait for that call to happen. Reach out to them proactively, get that problem addressed, and change the booking as needed. So that's the second use case, proactive. And the third one is a guest or a traveler calls the contact center, talks to an agent. Let's look at that transcript and learn from that and help us improve our interactions with customer. That's the third use case. And finally, on complex cases, when a human agent is helping a customer, help that agent with finding the data, finding the right step, as you said before, finding the right forms. So working behind the scene, AI agent working behind the scene to help human agents to make them more productive. So these are the four use cases I see in this space. So you asked about Amazon products and services. Number one, we have Amazon Connect. This is our contact center solution. So we have a lot of interest from travel and hospitality customers. We have a lot of customers using Amazon Connect. So that is our number one tool in this space. And we have Amazon Lex, which is our speech recognition and natural language understanding tool, which powers our Amazon Alexa tools. And then we have Amazon Transcribe that helps you speech to text conversion, Amazon Poly, which is text to speech conversions. This all can be integrated into one solution to help customers. And finally, we have Amazon Bedrock, which is our generative AI platform that helps partners like you and customers to build generative AI applications, not just build, test, and deploy that so our customers can use generative AI powers in their contact center.
Yeah, and again, that probably feeds in nicely to around and specifically around those key strategies for success. And you touched a little bit about on that conversation just there about how the industry today is completely reactive, right? And everything they do is based on a customer reaching out to the hotel, the railway, the airline, and saying, I've got a problem. There's only 5% of all interactions today in the current traditional model are proactive, okay? There's only about 25% that are using virtual assistants. Where we need to go to is to push very much a proactive point like you've just talked about there, where 70% of automations should be, or 70% of all interactions should be automated. And that 70 is broken up by a 30% and a 40% that we've seen. 30% all around the AI conversational side of things in the omni-channel, those bots associated within Amazon Connect, and 40% around apologies, interactions, and proactive actions. So if we know something is wrong about an incorrect hotel booking or ticket on a railway or a flight itself, we should reach out directly to them and say, I know there's a problem and this is what I'm going to do about it, okay? And that feeds into being a lot more reactive. Now, this leads nicely into how we could go about it. Again, I always like to temper this excitement around AI with a view of it takes time, right, to move from a traditional model of reactive to proactive. And we use this whole concept of saying, do it over a period of 2 years, right? Have that 70% target for automation in relation to those interactions over 2 years. Ensure that you can turn around and say, we've got a plan for this. But at a high level, the way we've done it here, Moni, with some of our customers, is to start in 3 steps, right? The first step is around that basic AI-enhanced knowledge base. And that's the stuff I talked about earlier about transporting a zoological animal, right? The agent still monitors the response to that. It's just that they don't have to go trawling for it. It's given back to them. They validate, they send it. You're still dramatically dropping down the average handling times in relation to it. Then you can move on to self-service portals. Basic stuff like, when is my flight? Is my flight delayed? Can I check in before 12 o'clock in this hotel room? Those basics would be stage 1. Right? And you'd be surprised the improvements that can be made off the back of that, right? Stage 2 is then full automation. And again, you touched upon this earlier, full automation for chatbots and voice bots, okay? And I have seen some of those phenomenal improvements in voice bots. And I used one the other day, right? And I was booking a restaurant, and it had the intonation of questions. And I was sitting there going, whoa. And at the end of it was like, see you Saturday, John. I was like, whoa, like it is that incredible power. So that's stage 2. It's fully automated chatbots and voice bots. And then stage 3 is around that proactive side of things for issue resolution. My flight is delayed, or by the way, you can't check into your hotel room till 3 p.m. We said 12, but have a free drink on us in the bar and wait. Okay. And that's the sort of staged approach, those 3 areas that you would do over 3 years. So this big bang approach doesn't work. And I'm not going to mention airlines that have tried this and hasn't worked out too well for them. Do it in a staged approach and manage the experience for that. We have used X, we have used Kendra in relation to those particular tools themselves. Have you seen a pattern in relation to the LLMs and maybe those voice recognition tooling that you would say this is the best one to use from an Amazon side of things?
So if it comes to LLM, we encourage partners and customers to try out different ones and what works, find out what works best for their use cases. So we don't recommend a specific one. We have our own LLMs, and we have strong partnership with Claude. So these are, you have many options. That's one of the good things on building your generative AI application on AWS. You have variety of LLMs to choose from. You have variety of tools to choose from. So I encourage partners and customers not to go with any specific recommendation and stick to it, but play around with different options and see what works best for your use case.
That's a brilliant point. Yeah, that is a phenomenal point.
I like your 3 stages phase. I have a question for you. Is that, do you see that approach for all sub-industries within travel and hospitality? We have airlines, we have airports, we have hospitality, hotels, cruises. Does that apply? Do you think that approach applies for all sub-industries?
Yeah, it's funny because I did probably a demo at a conference a while ago, and I went through the entire demo assuming that the potential clients was an airline. It turned out to be a railway, right? So in this particular scenario, that particular 3-stage approach worked just well for an airline as it did for a railway, right? That's not to suggest a hotel chain would be the same, because they have a slightly different customer journey. You look at airlines, you look at railways, you got to search for a flight, you got to search for a train journey, you got to book it, you got to book your seat, you got to pay for the hotels are slightly different in relation to that. So depending on the journey, you could either move slower or faster, right, in relation to that. So unfortunately, it's not a one template suits all. It depends on the customer journeys that you want to use it for.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So the next one is the case study. And what I want to do, Moni, here is I just want to quickly throw up one slide to show how these particular containment strategies actually work in practice. These are real statistics, and I'm not going to give away the particular customer, obviously. So in this particular scenario here, what we see is a 2-year time frame, okay? And I want to bring your eyes very much over to the right-hand side of it. So those KPIs we talked about earlier are all measured here. The containment rate of 70% AI containment with 30% going through agents did take 2 years, okay, to get there. But if we start here, FCR, right? So first call resolution, 95% by the end of the 2 years was a first call resolution, right? The second one, the chatbot solves 70% of all queries, with only 30% getting through to an agent. And you can see it slowly increasing over the 2 years with that middle green section coming through there, Moni. So it does take time to build up. The CSAT score, 27% with I versus A without AI. That was one of the bigger performance improvers, right? We found that where possible, a human or a passenger or someone booking a hotel would rather get the answer as efficiently as possible. Okay, and they get it. They find that it really does increase the CSAT scores with that. And then average answering time reduced by 49%. This is back then to this whole concept of having to wait in a queue. If you've got a bot waiting to answer your particular question, and I referenced this earlier in relation to a reasonably simplified question, or you get a call, you can actually reduce that average answering time by quite significant amount of money. But the goal here, and I keep on pointing this out, is that 70% AI containment and only 30% going through to the actual agents themselves after a period of 2 years. So that actually is a case study that Amok has worked on today, and is certainly part of some of the services we have. And we generally do POCs on that too, Moni, to try, and we've done them with yourselves, to try and ensure that people have a soft approach to how they actually use it. Have you any case studies you'd like to bring in here, Moni?
Yeah. So, John, first of all, that's an awesome case study, good customer success story. I'm proud of what Amak has done for our customers. So, thank you for that. I do have a good case study. I hope it will resonate with you. Are you familiar with DoorDash, the
Yes.
food? Yeah. So DoorDash, I believe, recently acquired Deliveroo. So you probably are familiar with that name more than the DoorDash. So DoorDash is an AWS customer. As you can tell, their contact center get calls from the customers, the merchants, the restaurants, and the dashers. Dashers are the people who deliver food. And so they handle hundreds of thousands of calls every day. And a lot of the questions that they get from these dashers, the food delivery personals, are very frequently asked questions. Say, I rang the doorbell, but there is no answer. What do I do?
Yeah.
My food is mixed up. I got the wrong food. What do I do? So these are frequently asked questions that the call center agents take and answer them, and it takes time. And a lot of the time, dashers have to wait to get an answer for this. So
Yeah.
they had aspirations to automate this. So they reached out to AWS, and the AWS GenAI Innovation Center worked with DoorDash to build a Gen AI powered application that is using Claude as LLM and the retrieval augmented generation as a method to get answers to these frequently asked questions. So we built this applications and we deployed it. So it will intercept the call from dashers, and if it
Yeah.
is a frequently asked question, if something that can be automated, the AI agent or the AI applications will address that question. So what's the benefit of this? It reduced the response time significantly, more than 50%, and brought it down to 2.5 seconds, under 2.5 seconds. So imagine a dasher calling, what do I do? They get an answer in 2.5 seconds. They get the answer immediately. They can move on, be more productive. And what can the contact center agent do? They can deal with more complex questions
Yeah.
from the customers and the merchants, and they can focus their time on more complex questions and be more productive. So it's a win-win solution. We are saving money. We are making the life of the dashers better and faster. We are making the life of the contacts and the agent more productive.
And this is what brings things to life. When you use examples like that, it just turns
Yeah.
around and goes, oh, okay, this is actually really affecting people's food deliveries. Absolutely brilliant. There's a few questions coming in here. And I'm going to throw one out here, Moni, and if you want 10 seconds to think about it, say it, and I'll express opinion on it. But one who's come in here says, do you think any of the current LLMs are suitably mature to allow passenger biometrics to be used to increase the on-time performance by optimizing board passes instead of passports and boarding checks at the gate?
Mm.
Okay. Do you want
So
me to go with that first?
passport verification, is that?
Yeah, it's passport and boarding card checks at the gate.
Yeah. So a lot of you have to give me the perspective from a EU region, but a lot of the airports and the airlines in US is doing a lot of automation in this space, and you don't necessarily need an LLM to power this. I mean,
Yes.
your AI agent, your traditional AI can do
Yeah.
this. The question I want to still answer this question: are LLMs mature enough to do that? Yes, a lot of the LLMs are very mature to handle. As you mentioned in the beginning, there are some concerns around data. If I use my data, will that data be used to train the public LLMs? There are some concerns around data that may stop some of the enterprises from using LLMs. But from a maturity perspective, a lot of the LLMs are there to handle critical workloads like this. But I will say one thing though. We talk about maturity of LLMs, but what we are not talking about is we don't need a heavy LLM to do some
Yeah.
of the work like this. It can
Yeah.
become very expensive and costly, and people are talking about maturity, but they are not paying a lot of attention to what's the cost of running an application. You probably don't need such a mature and a
Yeah.
heavy LLM to do an application like this. You need a lightweight, focused LLM or model to run this. And we have technology like distillation. So you get the knowledge from a large model and distill into a smaller model so that you can reduce cost. So that I feel that's where industry is going. Probably we will start looking at, hey, I need a smaller model that I can distill from a larger model for my specific use cases. So when I get questions like this, that's where we need to look into how can we run such applications cost effectively. That is a bigger problem than the maturity of LLMs.
And to probably take that a little bit further, you had suggested that you don't necessarily need to, a shotgun to kill a snail. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about here. You can actually have solutions outside of AI to support this activity too. This is about real-time data, and the ability for performance to matter in relation to that one. So, the distilling or a lightweight AI is an answer. Not using AI is an answer, okay? But it just depends on what you want to do with it. But yeah, the EU is fairly tight on GDPR, and certainly when I'm going to the airport, my biometrics is what I actually use going through faster, right? But when I'm traveling with my family, they still make me go to the human. If I'm on my own, I can go through directly. Another quick question that I don't know the answer to at all, Moni. When will Nova LLMs be available outside of the States? Have been testing using VPN and results are very promising.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't have the answer right away at my fingertips, but it has been available in all the US regions, and I have been playing around with it. But I don't know how can I get an answer to the audience to you. I will take as a follow-up, and I will respond to you, John.
No worries, now I'll get it out. Listen, I'm just conscious of time, and we've one section still to go through, and that's around future trends, right, in AI and where they're actually going. And specifically, I enjoyed this section when we ran through this beforehand, Moni, around this hyper personalized travel experience and how that could be used and how AI could curate itineraries based on behavior and preferences, and specifically on the likes of what a passenger might have looked at from online searches, reviews, likes, social media activity, and then maybe molding an itinerary for them. So the person is into paragliding. How do we actually get a holiday suited for them in relation to that? Or if they're a big foodie, what's a culinary tour that we can actually give in relation to that? And I especially like the hotel rooms, right? And the fact that you have Lex that will be able to take voice orders in relation to stuff. But even if you go on further than that, if you're using the likes of UPT, and we'll talk about that in a second, that profile has been built up that when you book a room, the hotel itself knows your Spotify listing, and as you walk into the room, Fontaine's DC is playing, and you're going to have a burger that's well done, cooked, delivered to your room within 30 minutes. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about profiling and how that hyper personalized experience might happen and how UPT fits into a bit of that?
Yeah. So as you said, this automation is going to accelerate. I mean, we said this many times, the IVR, the interactive voice response, modernization is projected to grow over 70%. You also said this number, so we are aligned. We are expecting a 70% growth, and it's going to expand into a 9.2 billion over the next 5 years, as per McKinsey. So as the automation grows, and as customer expecting personalized experience, as you mentioned, what becomes critical to deliver that personalized experience is a customer data. We need to understand our customer really well, not just from one perspective, but a customer 360. We understand them not from one travel segment, but if at all possible, understand their hotel stay, where they are staying, how they are coming to the airport, where they are parking. So understanding that customer 360 becomes crucial. So as you mentioned, we have a AWS solution that is industry focused, that stitch together this customer data from siloed systems and provide a customer 360. And we have been going through many iterations of this solution, and we have version 3.0 coming very soon. So this solution will help you, and there are other solutions in the market too, so that build that customer 360, build a good customer foundation. And when we are in this travel and hospitality industry, we need to understand the customer. We need to have the customer 360. We need to have a good operational data as well. I call this the 360 view of a flight, or 360 view of a property. What is happening for that specific flight? What is happening for that specific property on that day? So understanding this customer data, understanding the operational data will become critical to make a lot of this activities automated, so we can provide a better customer experience.
It's really interesting. Again, a use case that we were looking at bridging different areas. So again, if I look at airports, airlines, and the interaction between those two, there is interactions, but it's all around terminal use, ATC, those sorts of core services. But recently, we've started to look at a use case where you have loyalty program members from an airline, and an IROPS disruption use case occurs and the flight is delayed. But this platinum loyalty member is sitting on the plane. They park the car in the airport, and the parking is going to run over and they're going to get hit with another 80 euros, right? The intelligence to be able to say, well, from that irregular ops, we know that this loyalty customer is sitting on that plane. Go tell the airport we want to extend their parking free of charge, right? And when the actual loyalty member lands, they get a text saying, we've extended your parking free of charge. Oh, and by the way, here's another 1,000 miles on your loyalty. Sorry for the disruption. And the CSAT scores, again, straight up. So we're nearly beginning to bridge stuff across the board. And that could, extend into the likes of hotels as well. And for me, Customer 360, UPT, right, is a game changer, because you're understanding the profile of it, not to mention this whole concept certainly around identity management and all that sort of good stuff too, okay? And the final 2 minutes, I know I could talk to you for hours on end, Moni, but we all have day jobs to do. The final 2 minutes, a little bit, certainly around ethics, GDPR, consent, security, right? So I might talk a little bit about GDPR and consent, and maybe you and ethics and security, but I think on the GDPR side of things, it's strict enough in Europe, and there's always an opt-in that's required for it. And this came up in a meeting also earlier around this whole concept of a customer booking a package holiday, right? They get the hotel, they get the flight, they get the transfer, but the person booking that needs to opt in for their information to be shared. So then at a later stage, I talked about the paragliding, or I talked about the food tours, can then be amalgamated to be able to advertise back out to them. So there's always going to be an opt-in in Europe in relation to people having to do that, for them to turn around and say, I consent for you to use my data so you can package up my preferences and give it back to me, right? So that's a really important point in relation to that one. Security, AWS, that is your middle name.
Yeah. So John, you touched on a lot of the issues here. I will say, and we both agree that, and we have said this many times, this automation and AI agents, we all expect it to grow. And we have agents doing one thing, specific things. We have agentic AI is the hard work. That means an autonomous software that's powered by AI, that is one doing one thing. And we expect multiple agents doing multiple things. We already have technology to do agent orchestrations. That means we can multiple agents doing different things, and we can have an orchestrator that orchestrate these activities. What that means is we can automate complex things in future, in very near future. That means in a travel booking, we can have multiple agents doing airline booking, hotel booking, parking, airport, Uber, and then we can orchestrate all these activities and do a complex travel booking in one go. So as a lot of automation happens, we need to be careful about, as you mentioned, security. Are these applications secure? Are these applications or AI powered applications not hallucinating? And we have within AWS, we have tools like Bedrock guardrails to help you with those kind of security inbuilt in your applications. And not just security, we need to be responsible. We need to build responsible AI. We need to have fairness, explainability, and transparency. We should be able to explain how did we come to this conclusion? Are these solutions fair to all the customers and the travelers and guests? And do we have transparency in the way we reach to our conclusion? So we have a responsible AI framework that we use in building our AI applications, and we encourage our customers and partners to use our framework or a responsible AI framework to build these applications responsible. That will be my suggestions and requests.
Perfect, perfect. We're coming to the end of our webinar in relation to this morning. I want to say thank you very much for your time and your insight in relation to this one. All right.
John, thank you for having me. I always enjoy our conversation.